So if you have such opportunity of getting this kind of security devices from places that matter, why wouldn't you do that?
So we're talking about improving on technology.
Technology.
You will see that in the past weeks we've seen even internationally attacks in Paris where, you know, but you will see what difference it seemed to be making because they seem to be going after, you know, the people, the masterminds. So we should be able to also employ technology that will help us in arresting people who perhaps have, you know, this kind of tendencies to do what is not right. Okay, now, we see technology, you hear maybe the ministers and governments that tell you we're also doing our best in that area. And what difference do you think, okay, we have the technology, but the people that will also man this, do you think we have the manpower to do this?
We can train, so initially we can get the people to help us train our own men, and we can also send people for overseas training to man these equipments. And they might not be, such equipments might not be that difficult to man. You know, you can have even the experts in your base room, so that as you are getting such information, you are able to carry out actions on them. Maybe, for example, you know that maybe Boko Haram troops are approaching a particular location through a particular route. You could use, once you get this information, it will help you to counter whatever offensive you want to have against them. So it makes your own security quite easy.
All right, General, Major Ebo has mentioned some things here that we think might help. He says might help in the war against, addressing the security threats around the country. Some of the things he talked about, he says employing devices and then consistent survey of Nigeria's territory. In my opening, I asked a question, who is monitoring what? When the attacks were happening in the northeast, was there actually anyone monitoring to the extent to which the spread is? Now, do we have an agency or a group of people that are monitoring if there is a spread across beyond the northeast to the north central and all of that, and even down south? Do we need to set up an agency to do that like they did in the US after the 9/11?
You see, we have agencies responsible, but what we need is greater integration. In a conventional warfare, we have what is called a comprehensive approach, that is combining economics, politics, and the military. In non-conventional warfare, like the one we're facing right now, what we need is integration approach, integrative approach, involving the government, the NGOs, the security agencies, the civil populace, the civilians, and without bringing everybody together, even if the monitoring agency is there, which it is, the NSS office is there, the SSS is there, and then there is a joint communication center that is responsible for all those things. But what you need more is collaboration. What you need more is more integration of everybody involved, especially the civil populace. Without the support of the civil populace, we are wasting our time, because most of those who are involved are not ghosts, they are not magicians.
But General, if I may come in here, when you say integration of the civil populace, the integration approach, how would the civil populace feel a part of what's going on if they are not aware, if they are not informed of the situation? For instance, when the attacks happened in Paris, what the government did, or what their security machinery did, was to raise the terror alert. And not just in Paris, in other parts around France, they also raised their terror alert, in Belgium as well. Who is doing that in Nigeria? How do we know when a terror alert is raised? I mean, to what level? Red, blue, green, yellow? Are the citizens informed about this? Are we even having that kind of mechanism already set up?
The mechanism is there. The problem, like I said, is the integration of those who are supposed to perform. It is not that the mechanism is not there. It's there. If there is an attack, for instance, in a place like, God forbid, I'm just using an example, Gwagwalada, Those who are responsible will move in. But unfortunately, the average Nigerian believes that until somebody tells him what to do, that's when they do whatever is required of them. And that is what we are still lacking. Bringing in the civil populace into the whole spectrum of security, we need to do more on that aspect.
Okay.
And I believe the present setup will have to address that. Maybe the Minister of Interior will have to address that, using the National Orientation Agency and all these other organizations that are around. We need to sensitize the civil populace. The security awareness level has to be raised, has to be increased. In Nigeria, you cannot shut down a city. People will complain. But in US, it happens. In Paris, last Friday, it happened. In Nigeria, it will not happen.
Okay,
Why,
now
no, sorry, sorry. I mean, but why do you say it can't happen in Nigeria? Why is it that
Because we have not sensitized our citizens to that level. And people will raise eyebrow. If you tell the average Nigerian not to move from one point to the other, he or she will believe you are impinging on his right. And that is because the security awareness has not been raised to the level where even when you see something that is wrong, you report immediately. We don't do that.
Now, let me come in here. You have said that Nigerians need to also be part of this. We need to be more conscious and be able to be part of making sure that our security space is good enough for all of us. But I think I remember, I can't remember the state now, but there was a church that there was going to be an attack, and a church member actually picked up the explosive device and threw it out of the window. He was brave. But what do you think Nigerians can do? For instance, you suspect somebody may be strapped with an explosive, and what do you think a Nigerian can do in that regard?
It's all of us that need to do so much. The government need to find a way with the communication system, the communication agencies or the service provider. For instance, if you want to call for assistance or you've seen something that is wrong, you dial a very long number, 080, whatever, 11 digits. When in reality, what you need is just about 3 or 4 digits. Like we used to have for fire service, 999. You have to find something like that. That is one. Then the average Nigerian too should be able to have the courage, the moral responsibility to report anything irrespective of whoever is involved. Right now, we don't do that. We don't do that. We find it very difficult to report cases. And like I said, maybe because of lack of trust of the police or the security agencies, we have to build trust. And the government has to work on that seriously. The National Orientation Agency has to work seriously on that. And I believe that's part of their responsibility.
Oh, all right, General, we'll come back to you. Let's come back this way. The awareness. The General talked about awareness of Nigerians. The National Orientation Agency is calling for security awareness amongst Nigerians. The question is, how do we raise that awareness? Nigerians seem to be aware of the security situation, but the General also talked about the fact that you can shut down a city in the US or in France and indeed around in some other countries. But that can't happen in Nigeria. Absolutely. Because of what you talked about, lack of trust. Yeah. But how do we get our citizens involved, that integration process? Yeah. How can it be done?
It can be done. For example, in the north now, in Borno, we have the civilian JTF, and they're all doing so much to assist even the military to carry out attacks in insurgency, and they've